Well, everyone's next, Matt Rosick, next work in progress on Rhino. So I've got some other projects going on, but I figure since I'm kind of on a roll with this one, I'm going to keep going with them. So I went back in after I did the putty work on the arms, and I rescribed some of the skin texture. Went back on the Dremel. A couple little spots where the mold line was just not where I was 100% satisfied. So I went back and touched those up again. And I think I'm finally ready for paint. So I'm not even worried about spot priming these little areas where I went back in with the Dremel, but I think these gaps blended in pretty good. I'm pretty happy with those. So now we're ready to start slinging paint. I think I'm going to do most of this hand painted. The reference that I sent my client is the same reference he was wanting me to use. So we're going to go with for a realistic looking skin texture and stuff. So I think I'm going to work on the face first so I can silly putty that. And again, I think I'm going to hand paint most of this. I'm going to see how much I can hand paint. So I'm going to use, for this, I'm going to use a lot of these Vallejo paints. I've got some Vallejo paints. I'm going to do some washes and glazes and then some dry brushing. And oops, and again I knock all my stuff over. I really want to kind of get a really kind of punchy look to them. So I'm just hoping there's enough in here I can use. So I got some of this Vallejo. This is base flesh from their Nocturna series. It's a dark flesh. I wish I had a little mixer, vortex mixer. I need to get one. So I'm gonna go in here and I'm just gonna hand paint this in, and it doesn't have to be super neat because we're gonna silly putty off around it. So the look I have in mind, I think I can accomplish with hand painting mostly. So we're going to put this on, and I really don't care about 100% coverage, to be honest. Actually, if it's a little transparent, I'm actually going to make a little water and thin this out a little bit, because I don't mind seeing some of the gray underneath. So we're just being kind of messy with this right now. Just want to make sure I kind of get all the surfaces covered. Just like this. The last you guys remember, if you follow me, if you follow the Morbius build, I didn't do any videos on it, but the human flesh tone on the Morbius was hand painted, and it turned out really nice. I don't think I used an airbrush and all on it. I was really happy with that. So all right, so we're gonna let this dry. It's really wet. It's pretty thin. You can kind of see through the paint a little. The paint. Just see the primer underneath a little bit. It's okay. So I want to get rid of the bubbles. So I'm wiping my brush off here, my towel, so to get rid of some of the paint. And I'm going in here and just kind of soaking up where it's pooling a little bit, because this is pretty wet. I really don't want it pooling. I've actually sent a message to Troy to see if, because I've got a lot of response on this piece. It's been around for a while. This was originally produced in 2012. To find this particular kit's very hard. I love this sculpt. It's just really got a lot of character to it. So I'm actually wondering if Troy would be willing to do one like this or very similar in quarter scale. I'm not sure what that would cost me. You know, I'm not working right now, so I'm not sure what he would charge me to do a sculpt like that. But I think I could get some interest in either selling the kit version or doing a very limited run of maybe like where I paint 10 of them or something like that. It's got to be worth my time, worth my while to do something like that. But I think it'd be kind of cool. Alright, so we're just going to let this dry. It's not real pretty, it's not very neat, but that's okay. So we're going to let this dry, and then we're going to go in probably with another really thin watery coat. I probably could have used a bigger brush. I always want to use the biggest brush you can when hand painting. For the longest time, I thought you wanted to use the smallest brush possible. It was the exact opposite. You want to use the biggest brush that you can for the area that you're working. Just reduces brush strokes and stuff. Okay, so let that dry for a little while, and then we'll come back and see what it looks like. Here's a close-up if it focuses. So, yeah. And again, that's the Nocturna base flesh. Vallejo color that I put on. Okay, so I hit that with a hairdryer a little bit, and I went in and I sealed it with some Krylon matte and hit it with a hairdryer again, because what I want to do now is I want to go in with a wash to kind of get in the crevices and stuff. So I think for that, I'm going to, I think I'm going to mix up, let me see what I got. We're going to play around here, see what we come up with. Maybe some sepia. I've got this, again, this is Vallejo inks. This is their sepia. It's an ink, so it's very runny. And I'm just going to take some of that. And I'm just going to run it all over this piece. And it's going to get in all the creases and everything. So we're going to go from dark to light. That's kind of like how I like to work. I'm just kind of being kind of messy with it. And this will stain, this will get in the creases, but it'll also stain everything a little bit, darkening the skin overall. Okay. Okay, now I think I'm going to do is I'm going to get get a paper towel and kind of blot this a little bit. To get at the excess. And I'll give a little modeling to the skin too. So now our skin tone overall is darker, but we got that really nice kind of look to the creases. And if you do this, and you take like a paper towel and you ball it up so it's kind of really hard. So I've got this pretty tight. When you go to dab it, it's really going to take it off just the top surfaces. It's like the nose and the cheeks and stuff, so that'll help take the excess off the high areas and let it sit in the recesses a little bit more. Okay. So I'm going to hit this with a hair dryer and seal it again, and then we're going to start going in. I'm going to start dry brushing on some tones. So that's what it looks like now. It's pretty ugly looking. Let's hit that with the hair dryer. Kind of where I've got little areas of pooling. I don't want pooling really. I'm going to pull that out a little bit. Okay, so I'm gonna let that dry a little bit longer to let the recesses dry a lot. I'm gonna seal it again, and then I'm gonna go back with that base flesh and start dry brushing and bringing up the tones and stuff to get them back to looking normal. But this is kind of a good shadow base layer. Okay, so I sealed that with flat. I hit it with a hair dryer, and I'm gonna go with some this burnt flesh from Vallejo, and I'm gonna dry brush this on. So I put a little bit on a flat brush and get most of it off. And hopefully this will add a little red tinge to everything. One second. Sorry, my daughter and her friend are blaring their TikTok or something. So this is adding just a little hint of redness to the cheeks and nose, which will be under the surface. Not sure that's showing up in camera. It's looking good here. So we'll seal this again, a lot of sealing between layers. And then we'll come in with some, start bringing up some lighter tones. So I'm gonna go seal that and we'll come back. Okay, so I hit that with some flat. I hit it with the hair dryer again, and now I am going to go with this little reddish flesh. I'm basically working through this Nocturna flesh series all the way up. And I'm going to come with this reddish flesh. It's got a little more pink in it. Again, I'm going to dry brush it on. This will, great thing about Troy sculpts, they have a ton of texture in them. Depending on the subject matter, it's a great thing. So this is going to add, again, a little more pinkness to the skin. And I'm going to try to get down into the crevices just a little bit, not much. Just like that. So I'm going to go seal this, and then we'll move up to the base flesh that we used originally. Alright, so I just sealed that. Now we're going to go back to the base flesh. I'm almost out of this color. I actually really like this color. It's a very good base color for skin. I'm just about out of it, so hopefully I can get some out of this bottle. I don't need a lot. I may add just a drop of water to this, which I don't like to do when I dry brush. I like the paints to be fairly dry when I dry brush. It just gets the, it works better. I added a few drops to this. I mean, I could mix up a color similar to this, but it's kind of nice to have it already in a dropper bottle. Add a few more drops to loosen some of that up in there, some of the pigments. There we go. That's all I need. I need to buy the setting. I really like it. Okay, so we got the base flesh. This is the first color that we put on originally before we did anything else. I'm gonna get most of it off. I don't want to put it on too heavy because I don't want to cover up the those red tones I put on. So I'm taking the tip of the brush and just kind of going down a little bit into the recesses, not much. I don't want to cover up all that shadowing, but I wanted to kind of have the same tone overall. It's looking pretty good. By keeping it very light, you retain all the colors that you put down before. All right, so I'm going to seal this, and then I'm going to come in with natural flush. All right, so we'll seal that. I'm going to come in with the Nocturno natural flush. And depending on what this looks like, this may be the brightest. There's one more step on this. It's called Fairy Flush, but it's pretty bright. We'll see how this dries down. It may need that one extra level, considering how dark I started. So again, I'm just going to kind of use the flat part of the brush. Well, probably, what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to go up one more step with the highlight, and I'm going to just come up one more level. Shake it up. This is still the natural flesh. I am going to mist on probably a little bit of flesh color on top of this, just to kind of tie it all together. So now I'm all the way up to the fairy flesh. And this is pretty bright. So from there, I'm going to go turn my airbrush and be right back. I think we're going to mist on. Oh my god. Where is it? Nope, that's too dark. Right, kind of go to base flesh, which is light African flesh from GarageKits.us. I really wish this was in a semi-transparent, but it's not. So I'm gonna add some. I'm gonna thin it out a little bit. Back way off and just kind of mist this on top of it. Dry brushing is looking good, but it's just really picking up a little too much texture for my liking. I want to blend it in a little bit. If I back off enough and I thin this out, this will look pretty transparent. I may go back in there with that ink again and just hit the crevices. It's actually looking pretty good right there. So I'm gonna go seal this and take a look at it. Okay, so what I'm gonna do now is I want to warm this up just a little bit. So I'm gonna use a little bit of the GarageKits.us gold toner, and this goes a long way really quick. Come back way up. And basically you just need like a little spurt. And it's, you probably don't even see it in camera. That's it right there. That's all I need. I can tell a huge difference. It just brings some life to the skin because he's looking a little dead. So I'm gonna go seal this again. A lot of seal, little steps, a lot of sealing. I go seal this and we'll come back. Okay, now what I'm gonna do is I'm actually really happy with everything for the most part. I'm gonna go back in, not with the sepia. It's a little punchy. I'm gonna come in with I'm gonna mix up some washes. Let's see what I got here. I'll make a warm. Here, I just went to the Hobby Town and got some more of their cheap acrylic paints. They're getting really low over there, but I kind of want a what's this? Got the right tone. Yeah, that may be the right tone. Maybe a little purplish kind of. Get a little red. I'm gonna mix up a couple. A little red, a little purple. Just gonna mix up a bunch of different. And that purple, I want to add just a hair of black. It's too bright. And a touch of this dark red. Alright. So let's start out with this brown here. Let me take a little bit of this black and red and mix that in there. Okay, looks about right. So I took some of this brown, a little bit of black, a little bit of red, and I'll make this really watery. Just like that. And get some Q-tips, because with that flat on there, I can come in here and I can kind of add some washes to the wrinkles and stuff and dab it. So I'm hitting all the wrinkles where we did the ink, kind of how we did the ink earlier, but this is more selective and not over the whole skin. Now, with it being really watery like this, it'll blend very nicely. So you can see I'm just taking the tip of the brush and hitting those crevices and then going and dabbing it. And it may take a few applications to get the full effect, but I can underneath the nose here where I got some shadows. So this sculpt, he looks kind of old and raggedy, so we're kind of going for an older looking skin tone. It's not going to be super fleshy. It's going to be a little more muted. Putting the flat coat on allows this to kind of stain. We're just staining the surface, what we're doing with a wash. You're staining. We're going to hit pretty heavy under the eyes, and we're also going to hit that with a little bit of that purplish, dark purple under the eyes too. when you first put this on, it doesn't look like it's doing a lot, but you do a few applications and it builds up nicely. So I'm not letting this dry. I'm letting it before I dab. I'm dabbing it pretty quick because I don't want to. I really like the kind of the overall skin tone I got going on. I really just want to affect the crevices and stuff. So that's why this may take a couple applications. Because you take a bunch up when you dab it. That's okay. But now it's starting to, the details are starting to come back. When we airbrushed on that last little bit of GarageKits.us color, it softened the details a little bit, which is okay. Let's go add them back in. So under the eyes here, I'm just really dabbing off if I get anything on the cheeks. Like that. Maybe a nice kind of dark line around the kind of the mask area. I guess we'll call it a mask. Some nice separation between his face and the rhino skin. Okay, so this is looking pretty good. If you find that you keep adding this and you're not seeing a difference, go ahead and go seal it. And then do it again. You just may just need another layer of sealer where the paint to kind of stick to. Put a pretty heavy line around the mask area and we'll let that dry. I won't dab that. There's not a lot of pigment in this paint, it's mostly water. I'm lightly blowing on it too to help kind of, I don't want to put a hair dryer because I'll blow all this around. It's very watery, I'll just blow it around. I can lightly blow on it. I'll dry it. Now here I see I got like a kind of harsh line from the wash, so I'm just putting a little saliva on my Q-tip and dabbing it and it'll pull up that extra. Soften the edge. Okay, got a little bit here on the cheek I don't want. And I also when I put the Q-tip on my mouth, I rotate it to tighten up the cotton. You can't see me doing that, but that way it's not so soft. I can kind of be a little more accuracy with dabbing. And also if I moisten it, it helps soften any blends. I'm not sure if you guys are seeing any of this. This is a thing that's hard to do on camera because I have to be close to see the subject to see what I'm doing. again, just keep building it out a little bit at a time. And you can bring it out a little bit from the detail and soften the blend like this. Because I'm noticing kind of some harsh lines here, so I'm going to bring this out a little bit. There's like hardly any paint on my brush, mostly water. A very lightly damped Q-tip and just dab it and I'll blend it right in. It's kind of like, just almost like doing pastels, but with a wash rather than pastels. Same here, a little kind of shadow on the cheek. It's a little too harsh, just dab the excess off. Okay, this is looking pretty good. So also, if you don't know, when you the smaller the scale as far as painting goes, the more contrast you want. That's why if you ever look at mini painters, their pieces have a ton of contrast in them because you have to kind of trick the eye to see it because it's so small. So you're kind of falsely bringing out details that are to trick the eye to see them. So that's why mini painters have such super high contrast paint jobs, which I love. So my paintbrush has hardly anything on it right now. I'm just kind of adding some shadows and stuff here. I don't know if you can see that, but there's hardly anything going on the surface. It's looking pretty punchy in camera. It's not that punchy in person. Get there. It's a slow process, just slowly building up the tones. Okay. I'm gonna let this dry. I'm gonna seal it, and I'm gonna come in. See a couple of kind of wrinkles here on the eyelid I missed, and then I'm gonna add some redness to the cheeks. Get those looking a little kind of rosy-ish. And a little purple in the eye sockets, dark purple to the eye sockets. That was a trick John Elred recommended to me, and I've been kind of using it ever since, and it has done wonders to make things look more realistic. Yeah, he's looking pretty good. It's really punchy in camera. It's not that punchy in person. I'm looking at the back of my camera. It's like, man, that looks super contrasty. It's not that contrasty. Yeah, get the portrait done today. It's pretty good. It's a Saturday. I'm just going to do a little bit of painting. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that. This looks great in person. So we're going to go seal this and we'll come back. Okay, so I sealed that, hit it with the hairdryer. Now I'm going to mix up this kind of dark purplish color. I may have too much black in there. Yeah, I got that a little more purple. What color is this? What's the purple I want? I actually need another palette. Let's do this. Luckily these paints are they're like 99 cents a bottle. They're perfect for doing washes and stuff. Yeah, that's actually a perfect purpley flesh color right there. So it's like I don't mind using a lot because it's actually really hard to get right now. Hobby Lobby is having a hard time getting stuff in, as everyone else is. Okay, so I kind of got this purplish tone going on. And this is just going to go into the eyes, so I got way more mixed up than I need. Let's see how this looks. Again, it's mostly water. I'm just going to stain underneath the eyes a little bit. Making sure not to come on top of the cheekbone and stay kind of off this, bring it up the side of the nose just a hair. Looks good. Okay, so while I'm here, we're going to do add a little redness to the cheeks and tip of the nose and stuff like that. So again, mostly water, a little bit of red in it. And put it on, dab it off. It looks pretty dark, but it's mostly water, so that's why we build it up slowly. So that's like 3 applications. And I'm actually using a dry Q-tip to dab this off. So I'm not sure if it's showing up in camera, but that's this side has the red on it, and the other side does not. I can tell the difference in person. I'm not sure if you can see it in camera. The camera's making this look really punchy. So I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side. Again, this takes about 3 or 4 applications to get the effect I want. And even though it looks really dark red, It's just adding a little bit of pinkness to the skin because you can remember you gotta remember what you have for your underlying colors. So you really have to have a really good knowledge of color theory and how colors work together to understand what's going to happen when you put a color on top of another color. Okay, so we're getting there. Okay, it's looking pretty good. Now it's got some fleshiness. Add a little bit to the nose. Probably make this a little pinker. It looks like I'm taking it all off when I do this, but I'm not. It's leaving just a little bit behind. This is what we want, and I want more. I'm gonna hit the tip of the nose a little harder, a couple more times. And blend it up. If you want to get a little more stronger effect, you can leave it on the surface a little bit longer before you dab it off. It'll give it more time to stain, but I prefer to take it off right away and just build it up slowly. Okay, so I got some pinkness to the cheeks, a little purple under the eyes. I'm going to take some of this last kind of highlight color we had and get a little and I kind of got this highlight color, real watery. There's a little more red to it. We're going to do little washes here and there, some very selective washes. I'm going to add a little white to this here in a second. Oops, I got some down there in the crevice. I don't want that. This is just adding another little layer of kind of flesh tone to some of the areas. Kind of mid-tones. Dang it! Don't want to cover up that shadow line I created earlier. Kind of ran into there. little bit of white. Where's my white? I'm almost out of white. I gotta get some more. There it is. A little bit of white to that color I was just using. And we got a new Q-tip. And some final highlights of this, I think, will be there. I got a little white here on the side. I want it. If I can get a hobby Q-tip, it's got a point. If I can wipe it off. There you go. This part's really hard to do on camera because I really got to be able to turn this piece to where I can see everything. This is a very strong tone, so I don't need a lot of it. So you can see I dabbed a little bit on there and I just kind of spread it out. So I'm going to put a little bit right here and take my Q-tip and blend it out. It's been really good. I'm going to just hit the very top of the nose here. That's where the light would hit the most. And these little edges. That. Okay, we're getting there. This is looking really good. I'm not sure if you guys have seen anything I've done here because of the way I've had this tilted, but I like to dab it on. I don't want to paint it on. I like to dab it. It gives a more natural look when you first put it on. And then it keeps your brush strokes down to 0. So I'm dabbing. And I'm painting this on. Okay. May have a little too much red in the cheeks there. We'll see. I don't know. I'm kind of digging it. I'm going back with a very little bit of the very watery fairy flesh to try to knock down this redness a little bit. I think I got a little too much red in the cheeks. So I'm just going to try to neutralize a little bit of it. Yeah, that made a difference. Yeah, that's helping. Alright, I'm just going to keep working this off camera because I need to be able to really get in close to see what I'm doing, but I think you get the idea. So I'm just going with all these different washes back and forth until I get the effect I want. I'll show you what it looks like after I seal it. Okay, so I just continue to go back and forth with all my washes and stuff, and I'm really happy with how this looks. Let's see if I can get under some light. It's really punchy in camera, but I went in and added the final little white highlights and stuff to everything, so I think it looks really good. He looks mean. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to base coat the eyes in white. They're super squinty. I can't even really see the eyeballs, to be honest. I think he's got some. Let's see if we can base coat these. Man, they're really in there. So I always use GarageKits.us bone white for eyes because it's got a nice off-white tint to it. Let's see if I can find it. Bone white, where is it? I should have had this out before I was going to do this. Pure white. Where'd it go? I had it out the other day. Aged bone. Natural bone. Where is it? I gotta find it. It's in one of these freaking things. Anyway, I use bone white. I'm gonna base coat it, and then I gotta see if there's room to actually paint eyes in there. I don't know. They're super tiny. So I'll probably do that off camera because there's no way I can do that on camera because they're so small. So I'm gonna do that, and we'll come back. I don't know if you can see them or not, but the eyes are painted. So basically what Troy did is when he sculpted these eyes, he just, for the irises, he just kind of indented a couple of holes. So I filled this with brown paint after I painted the bone white, and then I outlined the eyes and the irises in a very dark brown. So they're there. They're just super squinty, which is kind of cool. It looks very menacing. So I think the portrait's done. I'm happy with this. Yeah, I like it a lot. It's looking pretty punchy in camera, like I said, but in person it looks really good. So I'm going to seal this up one more time, and then the next step will be on the gray. So I got some great ideas on that. So I'll probably seal it, sleep putty it, and I'll just do a quick coat of a gray on this because I got some kind of, it's just messy from working with it, but I think the portrait looks good. I'm happy with it. So maybe I'll just call this work in progress done, and it's the portrait, and the next work in progress will be the gray. So stay tuned for that.